rules are, so people get an idea. No interruptions. What else?
Turn your cell phone.
Raise your hand. Cell phones is a huge one. If you aren't talking to your groups about how you want to handle cell phones, PDAs, Blackberries, Blueberries, all that stuff, you need to talk about that at the outset. Don't wait until you have the problem. So the whole concept with ground rules is this. You say to the group, you know what, guys? I really appreciate the time investment you guys are making. I know you're spending a lot of time in these meetings, and we all know meetings can be dreadful. I want to be sure these sessions are productive. So let's come up with some ground rules that we all can use so that these sessions are really efficient, really effective, and really a good use of your time. What ground rules would you guys suggest? And that's really the power. You as the project manager don't come in with the ground rules. You let the team come up with the ground rules. Why do I say that? Buy-in and ownership. And it's so much easier for you as the PM to enforce something they came up with, as opposed to something that you're just kind of shoving down their throat.
I was going to say you should have an agenda at every meeting.
Definitely. And so one of those ground rules is we should have an agenda. We should start and end on time. The other reason why you want to talk about some of these items and come up with these ground rules early on is everybody signs up for this stuff at the beginning. They love it. They're saying, oh, we need to have agendas, we need to start on time, no Blackberries. And then that same person who said, you know, we need to start and end on time is coming in 15, 20 minutes late. Yeah, with an excuse or without an excuse. So it's so much easier for you to try to enforce these issues later if you have that conversation right at the beginning. So I would encourage you with the action items, just say, how are we going to deal with that? If we assign an action item to someone and they don't do it, you know, what do we think we want to do? How should we handle that? And keep in mind also, the ground rules don't all have to sound negative. Like I had one team where their ground rule was, hey, no meetings on Friday. Any meeting longer than 90 minutes must have food. Any meeting longer than 3 hours must have beer. So again, these can be, you know, fun sorts of things that really help the team engage and feel a lot more positive.
Who's ever the last one in the meeting has to buy the food for the next meeting.
Guess what? We had a ground rule that whoever's the last person in the meeting has to take notes for the next meeting. And as a matter of fact, we used to have a really bad problem, I don't know about you guys, we had a really bad problem with back-to-back conference calls. And then every conference call would start maybe 10, 15 minutes late because we start the call and we get a few minutes in and then you hear beep, beep, and then you're like, okay, who just joined? Who just joined? Okay, let me get you up to speed on what we talked about before. And so literally you're wasting maybe 10, 15 minutes every call, then you multiply that by 4 calls a day and all of a sudden that's an hour. So at one of our conference calls, somebody put their foot down. I was so glad it wasn't me. And they said, we have to do something about starting our calls on time. We need a new ground rule. And that's another thing. Even if you come up with ground rules at the beginning, you can add to that list at any point when you're seeing that you're having issues. So the team agreed to come up with a ground rule that said, and this was a close-knit team, anytime we start a call, you must be dialed into the bridge or the conference call number at least 5 minutes prior to the start of the call. We're going to do roll call right at the beginning. Anybody who joins after their name is called for roll call must sing a stanza of God Bless America on the call. And it sounds silly. I mean, it sounds silly and hokey. And no, I probably wouldn't use that particular ground rule for every team I've ever worked on. But with that close-knit team, it worked like magic. I was actually late one time. And I tried to, when I called in, you know, I was about 5 minutes late, and I tried to kind of play it off, and they were like, oh, no, Dana, we want to hear the whole thing.